Federal government moves Democracy Day to June 12. Awards posthumous honors to Abiola and Fawemi.
Dialogue with the Niger Delta. Federal government launches new website to enhance communication.
Respite for small and medium-scale enterprises as federal government reduces tax burden.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus on honor for Chief MKO Abiola plus plastics pollution in Nigeria.
It started gradually, but has almost taken over every corner of the environment, land and water.
I guess, Kyria, you're talking about plastic bags and bottles that are used as containers and also for packaging.
You are very right, Kingsley, because plastics are so popular due to the comfort and convenience they offer in packaging, as 500 billion plastic bags are used around the world every year, and that also explains why it has become a source of concern.
That's right. Now, but they pose a major threat, as it were, than convenience than they ordinarily we are supposed to provide. Plastic pollution, also known as white pollution, is identified as having been a source of discomfort and inconvenience to not just human beings, but also animals, particularly fish and plants. In fact, plastics now are a threat to the entire global ecosystem.
Right, and plastics in the environment are said to contribute to soil and water pollution as a result of their non-biodegradable nature, which lasts in the environment for upwards of between 20 and 1,000 years.
Now, about 13 million tons of plastics are said to leak into the ocean every year, and thereby killing some 100,000 marine animals. 83% of tap water is also found to contain plastic particles, and some 17 million barrels of oils used in plastic production can be enough, it is said, to fuel 1 million cars for a year.
They also pose health challenges, as the studies show 93% of the people tested had BPA in their urine, with higher levels found in females. Anatomy, which is another chemical element in plastic bottles, is said to cause dizziness and depression, while consuming it is in large doses can cause nausea and vomiting, even death.
Now, other consequences arising from plastic pollution, as well as, of course, the consumption inadvertently of plastics, will be liver dysfunction, lung problems, cancer, endocrine disruption in human beings, especially in infants. Now, there are also instances of birth defects, infertility, and hormonal imbalance, as well as gastrointestinal diseases in animals, plus the inhibition of growth in crops that plastics can cause.
And again, one can now see the reason for the clamor for less usage of plastics, which also explains the choice of the theme for the 2018 World Environment Day and measures being taken by many countries on their usage.
So, what is the world, and in Nigeria in particular, doing to address plastics pollution? And why has it become necessary to put white pollution, as it were, on the front burner? And what are the measures taken so far by the Nigerian government to address the issue? Who should do what and when?
These are some of the questions today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria will provide answers to, as we have assembled those who know to do justice to the topic, plastic pollution in Nigeria. Welcome to the program, coming to you live on the network service of the NTA. I am Kyrian Umayo.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kirian and also welcoming you to today's edition of the program. As we indicated earlier, we have two topics for discussion. In addition to the plastics pollution, we are also taking a look at yesterday's announcement by President Muhammadu Buhari to honor Chief MKO Abiola and others. 25 years ago, of course, Nigeria had the June 12 presidential election, which unfortunately was annulled by the then military administration. Matters arising from the honor for Chief MKO Abiola, Ambassador Kingibe, as well as Chief Gani Fawemi issues will be taken in the second part of our conversation this morning. Plus, of course, we have our regular companion segments, newspaper review, business, sports, and others. In the meantime, here is our colleague with the highlights of the morning news, Ogwa Vivian Oyenibia. Hi, Ogwa. Good morning.
Hello, Kingsley and Kirian. Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to the news. The federal government has decided that with effect from this year, June 12th, will be marked as Democracy Day in the country. The government has also decided to award posthumously the highest honor of the land, GCFR, to late Chief MKO Abiola, the presumed winner of the June 12, 1993 annulled elections. His running mate as Vice President, Ambassador Babagana Kingibe, is also to be invested with a GCON. Similarly, the late human rights lawyer who fought for the actualization of June 12th elections and entrenchment of democracy in Nigeria, the late Chief Gani Fawemi, SAN, is to be awarded posthumously a GCON. And the federal government has approved the reduction in the tax burden for small and medium-scale enterprises as well as other ambiguous areas of tax. This is part of efforts to enhance ease of doing business in the country. Finance Minister Kemi Adeosun announced this while briefing newsmen after the meeting of the Federal Executive Council. Moving on, President Muhammadu Buhari is reassuring Nigerians of voting age not to hesitate in exercising their franchise in the forthcoming elections, saying the votes will count under his watch. Well, this was at a special valedictory session organized by the Federal Executive Council in honor of former Minister of Mines and Steels Development, Dr. Kayode Fayemi.
As I sit here, I watch every minister that wanted to talk. His constructive contributions reveal not only intellect, but his commitment to the progress of this government and the country.
Thank you, Mr. President, for not objecting to my return into Ekiti on this rescue mission to bring Ekiti back to its pride of place, to the path of peace and to the path of development, not just in the interest of Ekiti people, but in the overall interest of our country.
On a new website aimed at further enhancing communication between the federal government and the people of the Niger Delta region has been unveiled by the Vice President. As explained, the commitment of the federal government to ensuring all its planned projects are well executed is on course. Hence, the need for the people to be well informed about the vision for cooperation.
The new vision is a program of this government, and it's designed to develop the environment, the region that is, the Niger Delta region, and it is a forthright partnership between the federal government, the state government, the private sector, and the community.
And to legislative matters now, the Senate has confirmed the nomination of Festus Okoye, Monday Udo Tom, Garba Atahiru Madami, and Ahmed Mahmoud as resident electoral commissioners. The report of the screening by the Senate Committee on INEC had rejected the nomination of Ahmed Mahmoud from Zamfara State, citing a petition from his state as reason for the rejection. But the Senate in the Committee of the Whole rejected the committee's recommendation on Ahmed Mahmoud and confirmed him.
Would the Senate approve the nomination of Ahmed Bello Mahmoud as resident electoral commissioner representing Zamfara State? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill for an act to amend the National Health Insurance Scheme Act of 2004 to improve on the healthcare delivery system of the country.
If amended, 2 persons shall now oust 1 person as originally provided for in the Principal Act.
And as part of its commitment to fulfilling promises, the federal government has presented the 1994 assistant to Coach Clemens Westerhoff, Bonfere Joe, a 3-bedroom apartment. Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, who handed over the house on behalf of the federal government, said it is a reward for hard work.
Let me, on behalf of Mr. President, apologize to you that it has taken so long for the Nigerian government to come through. It is better late than never. Nigeria always comes through, so we have come through for you.
I thank you very much, the Honorable Minister, that you have done my great pleasure to give me my house.
Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kirian and Kingsley after this break.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
The 30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime, we bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
The choice of who you marry in life must come from your friends.
You don't reach time where we suppose arrange wife give birth.
No, it must come from your mother.
She's your wife.
Can that thing called love blossom from an arrangement?
It's a different ballgame from a partnership in a conjugal relationship.
Can brides and grooms be truly happy with a stranger forced on them by parents of relatives?
I don't even know him. How can I marry him? I paid your bride price and your father collected a piece of land for me.
Your rib-cracking comedy tries to answer these questions and serve them with a lot of rib-cracking comedy to you.
Is marriage by force?
Join us this week on Professor John Bull in the episode titled Arranged Marriages.
Thanks for the gift you bought me.
I should be the one thanking you for sending me a gift.
But I never sent you a gift.
I want a piece. No. Yes. They were holding peace.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
The largest data network. Glow Unlimited. Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the daring and invincible Louis the Mosquito. Responsible for 200 malaria cases all on its own. Is there anything that can kill Louis? Morphine! Presenting Mortise Power Guard. Its powerful formula kills malaria mosquitoes fast. So, get Mortise Power Guard.
Give me the value pack. Helen!
You do great value shopping.
Absolutely. I'm a champion at getting value.
Then you must have bought the Harpic 200 ml.
Why Harpic when I have
this? Even after applying them 10 times, they won't give a sparkling clean toilet.
Impossible.
Challenge. Detergent and bleach can't give a sparkling clean toilet even after 10 times. But Harpic 200 ml gives a sparkling clean toilet at one go.
Wow.
Harpic 200 ml. Real deal. Now only 200 naira.
Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Taiyi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
And if you just joined us, this is Good Morning Nigeria on the NTA network service. Now to business. Nigeria's total export grew by 56% year on year as National Bureau of Statistics releases first quarter 2018 report on foreign trade in goods. Joy Uzo has more on business news.
Welcome to Business News. The first quarter 2018 foreign trades on goods report released yesterday by the National Bureau of Statistics showed that total exports grew by 56% year on year. Export of agricultural produce is put at 73.24 billion naira, representing 64% against the 44.2 billion naira in the first quarter of 2017. Raw materials worth 32.13 billion naira were exported in the first quarter of 2018 against 22.13 billion naira in 2017. Others are solid minerals, 26.92 billion naira, energy goods, 10.32 billion naira, manufactured goods, 434.37 billion naira, while crude oil stands at 535.8 billion naira. On the other hand, value of imported agricultural goods in first quarter of 2018 declined by 18.90%, representing 184.49 billion naira, as against the fourth quarter of 2017 amount of 227.49 billion naira. Raw materials imports grew by 1.93% at 284.81 billion naira. Solid minerals imports stood at 12.62 billion naira, signifying a decrease by 17.27%. Energy goods imports 32.4 million naira at 76.51%. The value of 2018 manufactured goods imported 189.97 billion naira, decreasing by 1.65% over the previous quarter, which recorded 1.20 billion naira. The value of other oil products imported in 2018 is put at 846.31 billion naira, representing 122.70%, higher than the value in fourth quarter 2017 of 380.03 billion naira. Still on trade earnings, the total assets held by Nigeria's sovereign wealth fund has risen by 27% in 2017 to 533.9 billion naira. But the fund in the same year saw a sharp and steep decline in profit after tax to 23 billion naira compared to 130 billion naira made in 2016. In 2016, the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority (NSIA) made 93 billion naira in net foreign exchange gains compared to just 1.65 billion naira made in 2017. But the authority's interest income doubled to 22 billion naira in 2017 compared to 11 billion naira in 2016. The fund's holdings
of investment securities almost doubled to 430 billion naira compared to about 250 billion naira in 2016. But the fund says it has made commitment to invest more locally, which would take some time to mature and yield profits. However, the fund booked a 2.15 billion naira loss on infrastructure subsidiaries investments. NSIA is rebalancing the investment structure of the over 1.25 billion naira sovereign wealth fund in favor of more domestic commitments following huge opportunities within the local markets. And to the equities market, Nigeria Stock Exchange sustains third consecutive gaining streak as the NSE All-Share Index inches up by 1.53%. We now bring you a graphic representation of the closing figures. Finally, the International Air Transport Association, IATA, says Nigeria has repatriated the $600 million belonging to international airlines that was trapped in the country due to foreign exchange shortages. The Director General of IATA, Mr. Alexander Dale Joannick, gave the credence at the 74th IATA Annual General Meeting and World Air Transport Summit in Sydney, Australia. The news agency of Nigeria, NAN, reports that the funds were airlines ticket sales and other allied activities which the country could not repatriate due to falling crude oil earnings in late 2016 and early 2017. And on that note, we wrap up business news. Many thanks for watching. I'm Joy Uzo.
Thank you very much, Joy Uzo, for the business package. Next for us, we're taking a look at the front pages of some of today's newspapers to review the headlines and the stories.
Welcome, Bayo Atoyebi, our regular newspaper reviewer. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Tyrion. Good morning. Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Yes, good to see you. You're welcome. Front pages, we have 6 newspapers this morning, and either as a lead story or but otherwise a second lead or very prominent on the front pages of all the papers that we have this morning. Let's begin with the Nigerian Tribune. The Nigerian Tribune has it as its lead story with a kicker. 25 years after annulment, Buhari declares June 12 Democracy Day, honors MKO with GCFR. And you have a number of writers to that headline. Papa Gana Kingibe and Gani Fawemi, now GCON. May 29, no longer Democracy Day. Ambode Aregbesola, Ogun government, Abiola's daughter, Fani Kayode Okpadokun, commend Buhari. And declaration commendable, but June 12 isn't just about award on Democracy Day. That's according to Afenifere. And crown the gift with restructuring. That's Gani Adams. A sign of political desperation by president. That's PDP. And this will finally heal wounds generated by the annulment. That's according to the ACF. Details of that story can be found on page 2. Similarly couched on the front page of This Day newspaper. Above the nameplate of This Day newspaper, you have the headline there. Federal government honors Abiola, declares June 12 Democracy Day, and confers posthumous GCFR award on him. They're also there on Kingibe, Lagos, Ogunhe recognition. PDP calls Buhari desperate. And there's a bit of exaggeration, if you like, that's of course politely intended. From the Authority newspaper, the Authority says Buhari names Abiola president, puts it in quotes. You can see that with 2 writers. Next June 12th, Democracy Day, and confers GCON on Kingibe and Fawemi.
I think before Bayo comes in, let's look at other newspapers that has the same headline. New Telegraph said, kudos, knocks for Buhari as federal government declares June 12 Democracy Day. With the writers here, late MKO Abiola backs highest honor GCFR. Federal government honors Kingibe Gani Farami with GCON. Sage Falae Adebanjo Balarabe Afenifere Hill President. Junaid, it's mere politics. And PDP's to Buhari, you are not sincere. All right, that's for the New Telegraph. Now, Daily Sun also has that as a main headline. June 12th, Now Democracy Day. MKO Abiola resurrects. With two riders here to that headline. Buhari honors acclaimed winner of 1993 presidential election with GCFR, Kingibe Faremi with GCON. Finally, it's done, says eldest son of Abiola. That's a caller.
Well, let me take this opportunity to defend two papers. The authority by putting president in parentheses and also the son by saying Abiola resurrects. Not in literal terms, but within the context of the occasion. But significantly, this is the first time a statement has been signed under the hand of President Muhammadu Buhari, and he appended his signature, a press release by himself saying Chief Mashood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola is to be conferred the highest honor of the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria posthumously in 5 days' time on June 12th to mark the 25th anniversary of that historic election. The historic election, there, of course, is the election that was proclaimed to have been the freest, the fairest, and the most election that united all Nigerians. The statement also indicated that his running mate then, Ambassador Babagana Kingibe, who will have been vice president, is to be conferred over the Grand Commander of the Niger. The military and civilian transition day was May 29th, and you also remember that in October 21st, 1979, that was when the transition from the military to civil rule that brought President Shehu Shagari. So making May 29th the Democracy Day, the argument is that was to recognize the transition day, but not actually the symbolism of Nigeria's democracy. Several Nigerians have expressed their joy about this. Others have also said it is mere politics. President Muhammadu Buhari missed the opportunity to be the only person who would have been awarded that GCFR 3 times. In the last administration, he was listed for GCFR, and he declined and said, no, I already have one. So upon swearing in, he would have gotten his turn. Exactly. But you get it only once, and it is only accorded to presidents. And that was why the authority is right to say Abiola is president.
Now, let's look at this statement by President Buhari on this matter. That's on New Telegraph. He said, in the view of Nigerians as shared by this administration, June 12, 1993 was far more symbolic of democracy in the Nigerian context than May 29th or even October 1st. June 12, 1993 was the day when Nigerians in millions expressed their democratic will. This President Muhammadu Buhari.
The joy to that is that the tireless fighter and human rights lawyer, Gani Fawemi, is also to get GCO, an equivalent of the position of the vice president.
All right. I mean, one question to ask is, where were you on June 12, 1993? That's, I think, it's a pertinent question.
If you're asking me?
No, not you, Bayo. I mean, I'm asking, it's a question of, popping to our viewers. I mean, for those who were of age on that particular day, where were you on June 12, 1993? 25 years ago, a number of things, of course, occurred in between. And Abiola himself, unfortunately, passed away 20 years ago next month. Bayo, in terms of the very significant statement that the president issued yesterday, there was a clerical error. I think that should have been corrected. The 21st of October is factually the 1st of October 1979 when Shehu Shagari took over. It's immediately corrected in the next succeeding paragraph to that statement. Now, the award to Babagana Kingibe, where's GCON, and then posthumously to Chief Gani Fawemi, GCON. We also saw what happened some years ago when 2 Nigerian businessmen were conferred with GCON. That was by former President Goodluck Jonathan. That's Aliko Dangote and the chairman of Globacom, Adenuga. They were conferred with second highest honor. Second highest honor. But there are a number of points. I mean, some lawyers have already started speaking as to what is doable and what isn't doable. We saw what happened in 2011 when former President Goodluck Jonathan woke up and then, of course, announced to the nation that University of Lagos had had its name changed to Moshood Abiola University in Lagos. Within 30 minutes of that announcement, students of the University of Lagos poured out into the streets. Of course, it was negative reaction that generated, and ultimately that was shared. So,
yes.
but we'll see how all of this will go. It's the first time. The clamor has been on for several years for Emeka Abiola to be appropriately honored. And for those, of course, who were not of age at the time, there were 2 Muslims on that ticket in terms of religious tolerance. Baba Gana Kingibe, who was running mate, and Chief MK Abiola, who was also a Muslim. And Nigerians did not mind. And they just said all across the country. And the results were already being announced when all of a sudden there was a directive from the Aso Villa, where you had a military president, saying stop the announcement of the results. And then thereafter it was confusion that the country went through.
The good thing was that the announcement continued. The man who organized the election actually announced it.
No. The chief returning officer did not finally announce it. All right. So let's take a look at other headlines that we also have on the front pages of the papers. Back again to the Nigerian Tribune. Below the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune, of a bank robbery, that's Nigerian Tribune. Saraki has case to answer. Police insist. The police now saying 3 suspects followed him on condolence visit to Olofa's palace, who won't be part of any attempt to disgrace him. That's according to the Olofa. And second lead story, that's right at the foot of the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Anti-grazing law comment. Defense minister under attack. Senate orders withdrawal of comment. Rescind your decision. Reps ask Security Council. And Benue Government Assembly insist on law. Fayose group kick. You also have that story on the front page of this day newspaper. Just below the nameplate, it's on the National Assembly opposing suspension of anti-open grazing laws, while Benue government and assembly calling for Danali's sack. Presidency ignores National Assembly's threat to invoke constitutional powers. That's the lead story for this day. House refers Jibrin Kazaure to Ethics Committee over remarks on resolutions. Again, police reverse serves over Saraki, and suspects exonerate Senate President.
All right, let's take some more here on Daily Sun of a bank robbery, which of course appeared in other dailies. Saraki must face panel, says the police. That story is on page 4 of Daily Sun. Now, APC crisis. Court stops Cross River Exco from assuming office. And our court convicts First Bank chairman, MD, over 122 billion Ogoni compensation. The story is on page 5 of Daily Sun. And just quickly, the Nigerian pilot, that's below the photograph. Well, rather, let's take the main, let's take the main headline now. Done deal with the 4 riders. It's Buhari versus Dankwambo in 2019. 11 PDP governors, 18 ex-governors, others in support. Wike, Fayose, Sambo, Suswan begin underground work as NPDP aligns with the arrangement. Bayo, you have to come in here.
Well, let's start with the offer robbery first, the update. The spokesperson for the police high command says that Dr. Bukola Saraki is required to appear in person for interrogation over the links with the robbery on 5th of April. I said the force did not at any time ask the Dr. Bukola Saraki to respond in writing. He said this while he was parading 2 other suspects who had been, who were mentioned earlier on but had now been arrested. They are persons with nickname Captain and Olododo, who have been described as vicious and notorious political thugs operating in Kwara Central. So far, 5 of the gang leaders have been arrested and 10 principal suspects have also been arrested. They are allegedly to have killed 33 persons, 9 police officers in the April 5th robbery at Offa. 3 of the suspects followed on the delegation of Dr. Saraki when he went to pay condolence visit. This has generated some reaction. The Olofa of Offa, Oba Mustafa Gbadamasi Esowe II, has called on police to be alive in their responsibilities and avoid sensationalism in the investigation of the robbery. The Olofa says that in a statement signed by one Tajuddin Oloyede, urged the police to avoid sensation. The traditional ruler says that the people of Ofa are bereaved and they want that the law should take its course against those who unleash mayhem on the people, and particularly to avoid the violence and prevent further occurrence of such in the future. That robbery was the 4th in 10 years in that same city. All of us, after this comment, an indigent, Femi White, had also said that some politicians have mobilized political jobbers to protest in order to jeopardize the police investigation going on. So
all right.
it's still
here
it's
and there. That's the most that we can take. Just, of course, we had a very busy day in terms of reviewing the 6 papers that we have there. One story that is on the front page there with the photograph. Stella Odua dumps PDP for APGA. That's from the Authority newspaper. The details you can find on page 24. Senator Odua dumps PDP for APGA. Details of that story on page 24 from the Authority.
She says you feel at home more in Abuja.
That's right, former aviation minister.
Yes.
And, President Goodluck Jonathan. Bayo Atoyebe, thanks a lot for being around today.
Thank you for having me.
We have an honor for you. That's we discussed that before.
Yes. We
won't say that on air. Right? Bayo, thanks a lot for being around. We'll take a short break now. When we return, don't forget we have 2 topics to discuss: the federal government's recognition and honor for MKO Abiola and others, plus plastics pollution.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There's no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom, peace and unity.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
To the outer framers, the hat tippers, the fringe goers, you don't need to hide anymore. Try Dettol Even Tone. It cleans and helps to reduce the appearance of blemishes caused by oil, dirt and germs, giving your skin a healthy feel for an even better you. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Dettol soap is now also available for 100 Naira only.
Whenever pain occurs, you want quick relief. Try new Nurofen Express. It goes to the source of pain and gets to work in under 15 minutes. That's why Nurofen Express delivers fast and effective relief. New Nurofen Express works at the source of pain. Fast.
Being a mom is great, but when your child has a fever, you don't know what to do. I trust Nurofen for Children to take care of my child's pain and fever.
Effective relief you can trust.
The NTA Television College JOS admission forms for diploma program in film and television production, television engineering technology, broadcast journalism, and degree programs in mass communication, television journalism, and mass communication television production is now on sale. The sale of forms will commence 14th May and run to 13th August 2018 at the cost of 7,500 Naira only per form, payable through the remitter platform in favor of NTA Television College JOS. Forms can be obtained from all marketing offices in NTA State Capital Stations, zonal centers, Training Directorate of the NTA Headquarters Abuja, and the Office of the Academic Secretary of the NTA Television College. Applicants are required to possess 5 credits in GCE, SSCE in relevant areas of study, including English and mathematics, in not more than 2 sittings. All completed forms attached with photocopies of credentials must be submitted on or before the 13th of August 2018 to the stations where the forms were obtained. For further inquiries, please contact the Office of the Academic Secretary on these numbers. Announcer, Registrar.
Madam. Madam. Brought us as usual.
As usual. You have no problem.
For the three
You are welcome, sir.
as usual, yeah.
Welcome.
You take that one. You take that one.
You don't understand? We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have? You don't have?
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. Mom to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
How they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
All right, now you're welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now we'll begin our conversation with a discussion on the federal government's decision to move Democracy Day celebration from the 29th of May to June 12th. Now, the decision to that effect was contained in a statement personally issued and signed by President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday, wherein the government also announced the award of the country's two highest honors to the acclaimed winner of the June 12 election, that's the late Chief MKO Abiola, plus his running mate in that election, Ambassador Babagana Kingibe. And the other honor goes to the late human rights lawyer who fought tirelessly to uphold the mandate of Nigerians as expressed in the June 12 election, and that's the late Chief Gani Fawemi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
Now, joining us to discuss this development are Alhaji Ibrahim Modibo, a public affairs analyst and a June 12er, or should I call him one of the apostles of June 12th. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And also with us in the studio is Senator Olubumi Adetumbi. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Well, gentlemen, the Democracy Day in Nigeria has now been changed from 29th of May to June 12. And of course, as Kingsley read out a short while ago, the acclaimed winner of that election, MKO Abiola, has been posthumously given an award, the highest award in this country, GCFR, as well as his deputy at the time, Babagana Kingibe, as well as Gani Fawemi, and a very interesting person in his time when it comes to realizing the public opinion on matters such as the elections. So now, how do you see this development? I'd like to start with you, Modibo.
Well, thank you. For the purpose of emphasis, let me reiterate Kingsley. The way they will look at June 12 from diagonal or perpendicular angle. June 12 is June 12. It's a very fundamental historic event that has happened in this country. Here we were in a situation then where a democratic process guided by law and order, guided by virtues of democracy, Chief MKO Abiola, the principal apostle of the mandate, came on board and won this election in a free and fair election. It was the freest and fairest election after, or even, I could say even from the time of Lord Lugard. It was one of the most freest and fairest elections that was conducted on the surface of Nigeria. I mean, in sub-Saharan Africa, so to say, west of Zimbabwe and south of Limpopo. So if you look at this, it's a historic event of great historical or monumental importance in the annals of Nigeria that today I want to salute the courage, the conviction, and the thinking of Mr. President for allowing June 12 to be turned into a Democracy Day and also restoring the mandate. Invariably, Kingsley, by this singular decision or action of Mr. President, it means MKO Abiola today is one of Nigeria's past presidents, whether we like it or not. He has fallen into the line. And therefore, for us to correct that wrong impression, misguided by some few cabals or some military cabals, they came on board for self-serving measures. Because that June 12th, there was nothing wrong with it. It was an election. that was not guided by religious sentiments, that was not guided by ethnicity or by sectionalism. We had a Muslim ticket, but yet Nigeria, there was no earthquake. The country did not tremble, nor did it wobble. We had a country that was guided by reason. We had a country then where democracy, if democracy would have been allowed, by today, May 29 wouldn't have been a history. May 29, as far as I'm concerned, it was just an event. Because the coming in of the Obasanjo era in May 29, 1999, it was almost an arrangement that was certain by the military because of the feelings of the Southwest. As at that point in time, if you could see, the Southwest was angered by the monumental, declaration of June 12 as null and void. So to assuage the feelings of the Southwest and also to cool frayed nerves, the government decided to take the democratic tempo to Southwest, because by then we only had Olufalaye and President and former President Olusegun Obasanjo who contested. So it was just given to Southwest to assuage that feelings. Invariably, this to say that the military then were guilty. They felt very guilty of what they did because it was not right, it was unconstitutional, and it was a process that was very faulty.
All right, thank you very much, Ibrahim Modibo. Let's bring in Senator Olubunmi Adetunbi. Let's have your take on what the federal government has announced.
Like my colleague has just said, this is a monumental achievement. I see it as a correction of an historical error, a political error that is collectively committed by us as a nation. And I think President Buhari has acted with grit, with guts, and gravitas to rise up to the occasion and restore integrity, restore confidence in public service, to the extent that people becomes encouraged to be able to sacrifice for this nation, knowing fully well that their contribution and sacrifices for the development of our nation is never going to be in vain. I think it's a huge, huge encouragement to young people to recognize that public service will always go with a reward, whether immediate or on the longer term. It's also significant that it took 25 years for this to happen. It took 3, consecutive administrations that, in their own wisdom, did not recognize this as a priority for whatever reasons. Some call it political mischief. Some call it just an error of commission or an error of omission. And I would like to also state that what has happened, it's a complete healing to a broken democracy in our country. And it has also, given a disconstruction of the May 29, pretension to become the hub around which we will celebrate our democratic culture. Because the MKO Abiola and Kingibe election is unique in several ways. It was the first time that religion and ethnicity did not matter to the decision of the electorate to elect good leadership for this country. And I think this singular act of Mr. President has restored honor to democratic participation in Nigeria.
Now, I want to ask Modibo, this restoration of honor he's talking about, do you think that the president has acted in line with the opinions of the majority of Nigerians with respect to what he did yesterday?
Whether it is in line with the majority of Nigerians, what matters is going down the memory lane to see that democracy is entailed. Now, as the single senator rightly said, this event is of historic significance in the annals of Nigeria's history. Bearing in mind that today, as I'm telling you, this June 12 issue is a very popular mandate. June 12, as far as I'm concerned, is still alive. Because that election, people, as I've rightly said, and as the single senator has also said, it was devoid of religious sentiments, it was devoid of ethnicity. The whole of Nigeria rose to the occasion of one man that had honor, he had principles, and he has conviction to a Nigerian project. He drove in a political party, the SDP, which had manifesto, which had people-oriented feelings or projects on board to propel the wheel of progress of democracy. Unlike what we had from May 29, 1999, coming down to just shortly before 2015, we had a rainbow coalition of strange political bedfellows whose major aim and conviction was to capture political power without knowing what to do with it. They came, they captured power. If you see most of their campaigns, they are only dancing. Once they dance, they spray money. PDP power, PDP money. They spray money. And that was all. So with that, we saw in Abiola and Kingibe principled Nigerians. Nigerians with conviction. Nigerians with principles. Nigerians with a feeling of Nigerianness in them. Nigerians had the focus and foresight of development. Their major focus was development, to see to the project, to the developmental project of Nigeria. If June 12 were to have been allowed, but maybe by today, we would have added 25 years or 20, or well, this thing would have been from 1993, the election, so that at least we will be on the right track of democracy, so that we don't have nascent democracy as we have today. So with these feelings, I strongly want to believe that this singular issue Mr. President has done, it is in conformity with the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians. It has gone down well with Nigerians, because since yesterday I've not slept very well, because I was so happy that Abiola, in depth, he has been recognized as the president of this country, and also democracy will have a field day. Democracy will reign. By the grace of God, we don't have any military, we don't have any need for any military intervention again, so that we have these kind of issues.
All right, Ibrahim Audible, thank you very much there for your comments. I'm sure those who remember the 1993 campaigns, as we were talking about in terms of the conduct of that election, will recall, Kyria, and also the jingle of MKO.
About the best
MKO is our man. All right, but all right. Well, let's bring in Senator Adetunbi again. Now, before the president issued his landmark statement yesterday, there was an attempt in 2011 to honor MKO Abiola by renaming University of Lagos after him. That, of course, fell through. And we had also seen in the Southwest, so a number of the states, or most of the states, observing June 12 as a work-free day. Why, in your opinion, did it appear to have taken so long for there to be the kind of decisive political action that President Muhammadu Buhari has taken on this occasion? Is it that there were too many beneficiaries in between who therefore didn't want June 12, as it were, to be emblazoned in the nation's consciousness?
I think the June 12 experience for us as a nation was an unprecedented phenomenon that involved a lot of people, stakeholders, interest groups from all manners of divides. And by its nature of that incident, there was controversy about the rightness, the wrongness of it. There were winners and there were losers of whichever decision government took. And I think for previous administration, they erred on the side of caution in order to maintain balance. But this is a state of responsibility where the leadership of a nation must step forward and do what is right, knowing fully well that what is right will always be superior to what is good. One cannot condemn previous administration because it's their judgment, but history will be in a position to record a pass or fail answer to the decisions they've taken. I think for us, the issue of whether the decision itself is popular, of course, if you get on the street, you go on the social media, you go on street corners and hear people talk, it is evident that the issue of June 12 was unresolved until yesterday, because it remained a major subject of national discourse every year. The media didn't leave it alone. And there's never a country where you will find one single decision that will receive 100% acceptance. That is why the ratio of success in any examination ranges from 0 to 100. So if you take an opinion poll across all Nigerians, I have no doubt in my mind that majority of the people will say that this is a decision whose time has come and has been long awaited.
All right. Gentlemen, before we conclude this leg of our conversation on Good Morning Nigeria, I'd like to bring in Modibo once more, and that's to ask, let us review the activities of some of the key elements at the time who worked so hard to restore June 12, even after it was annulled. And that's where a personality like Gani Fawemi San, comes in. Now, even Modibo yourself, as a June 12er, as rightly pointed out earlier on, also played a key role. Now, let's look at the role of these Nigerians who were bold enough, even in the face of the military regime, that fought so hard to restore June 12. Did that, was it considered by the president before he took the decision yesterday?
In both character and content, June 12 was a milestone, a watershed in the history of Nigeria. Bearing in mind that Chief MK Abiola won this election in a free and fair atmosphere. Having won, and by virtue of his conviction that he has won and wanted to reclaim his mandate, he was captured just like fowl and was taken into custody, and subsequently, he either died or he was killed. So whichever perspective you take, that is it. So resonating these hard feelings, this feeling, monumental feeling of loss, of a true Nigerian, of a patriot, of a nationalist, of a democrat of conscience. Nigeria today, under President Muhammadu Buhari, has restored the dignity of June 12 and the dignity of democracy. Now, having said this, I had the privilege, when I was in Newswatch as an assistant editor, 1995-96, I had an interview with Chief Gani Fawemi. Gani Fawemi, if you see him, you know that this is a Nigerian. Detribalized, non-religious, non-committed to sectionalism, or the feelings of him being part of one place and leaving the other. In his struggle, Gani Fawemi told me that he has been arrested several times. He started his career as a lawyer by trying to go to as far as to Jos, to just go and enter a case for a peasant whose permanent secretary in that office collected his wife. So that guy had to, think of God. He said, look, he had to resign to go, but somebody advised him. Said, go and meet Gani. Gani fought that, but the government at the day had to arrest him. They took him to Bauchi prison. Now, if you look at Gani, is one person that is most emotional to the masses and to the oppressed, while it's a terror and trepidation to the oppressors and the looters. So Gani Fawemi stands as a symbol of democracy because he fought this country. He fought against oppression, against democratic vices, and against dictatorship. Having done that, I think what the president has done today or yesterday, I'm so happy. I'm so happy that if I die today, I think I'm going to heaven straight.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Incidentally, I mean, everybody, we all have memories of what happened on June 12 and the subsequent events. You've described it as a June 12. I recall in 1996 when Mohammed Uwais was just named the Chief Justice of Nigeria, and we had an interview with him. Mohammed Uwais is actually, his birthday is on June 12th. Yes, and the magazine cover story was, the headline, we're grappling with the headline. You don't say that I'm a June 12er or what, but of course we skip that. But for purposes, let's wrap this up as Kieran was saying. My question is going to Senator Adetunbi. For purposes of historical accuracy, it's often been said in general terms that the military annulled the June 12 election. But there were several amongst the military class who were opposed to the annulment of that election. Only a few of them, if you recall, were saying that June 12 could only be validated or revalidated over their dead bodies. There were a number of officers who were saying, no, listen, the then president, military president, Ibrahim Babangida had to step down and the election revalidated. Do we remember those unsung heroes amongst the military class on a day like this?
Well, I think there are wider consequences of this decision for purposes of public accountability and transparency in governance, and also for public education for the benefit of current populations and younger generations to come. I think our government, with the years of democratic governance that we've had, should begin to consider the possibility of declassification of otherwise confidential papers, because the minutes of the Supreme Military Council and all the top echelons, AFRC at that time, and all the caucuses within the military, I'm sure were documented. It's no longer a security risk for the public to really get to the root of this decision. Who was involved? Who was not involved? Some are alive, some are dead. And this is not an attempt to crucify or to judge or to condemn, but for purposes of institutional memory and public awareness and remembrance that under no circumstances should this kind of experience happen to us as a nation. So I want to recommend, without speculating who was involved, because it's highly conjectural, it's all in the rumor mill. Recently I read a document online about security reports that have been classified in the US about activities of intelligence agencies in our country. It's all over the place. So Nigeria should imbibe this culture and lay to rest the ghost of June 12th. I will also say, because regardless of the political persuasion that anybody is coming from, when a government, a popularly elected government, responds to popular demand of the people, it is entitled to the reward of such, decisions that reflects popular wish of the people. So the President Muhammadu Buhari government has answered to a popular demand that has been on the table and in the public space for 25 years. So if he has done it, and people are saying, oh, he has done this and we are happy with him, I think he deserves it.
All right. Thank you very much, Senator. And Nigerians are beginning to react to our conversation this morning. And we'll begin with Victor Ohiosumwa. He said the declaration of June 12 as Democracy Day and to award Abiola, Kingibe, and Gani is commendable. It is long overdue. We must not forget the lessons of June 12, the institutionalization of free and fair elections. Kudos to the federal government.
Festus Akimboyewa has this tweet: "We must salute President Buhari for honoring MKO Abiola and changing Democracy Day to June 12. While some people will see it as a political stunt, we must see it as the beginning of reconciliation and healing in our country."
In Olowokore Olajide says, it is a good development, but the present government should do the needful to protect the democracy in their actions and inactions.
Dele Jack Solomon: politics aside, President Muhammadu Buhari is on the right track, going by the implementation of some policies in recent times. The decision by the federal government to declare June 12 a democracy in Nigeria is long overdue. Credit must be given to the present administration for doing the right thing.
Pastor Arise Monday, declaration of June 12 is the right thing President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration has ever done. Kudos to the president and the nation, Nigeria.
Shakiro: MKO Abiola was a victim of necessity. What necessity, I would ask? I'm sure you will also ask that question. But he continues: "He touched the lives of every section of the country. He died for those who loved him. He died to make history for himself, died to let people know what he had done in his lifetime, so he deserves greater honor." Those are the tweets that we have from our viewers that we can take with regard to this. Of course, the June 12 issue is a matter that is still open, and we're going to have many more interventions.
We have just a few days away to June 12 this year. One wonders what is going to happen.
Yes,
are we going to have a double
very significant, very significant. Of course, once the president has made a statement or issued a directive, there will be other processes that will follow to properly document it. Distinguished Senator Olubunmi Adetunbi, thank you very much for all the points that you have raised, including in particular the call for declassification of documents pertaining to the June 12 election. And thanks a lot for being part of our conversation this morning. Ibrahim Modibo, public affairs analyst. Thanks a lot for your perpendicular and diagonal views.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
On all of this. So
thank you.
That does it for our first topic. We'll take a short break now. We'll return. Plastics pollution. Now, of course, the way to respond to it in Nigeria.
I see patients who come to me suffering from infectious diseases caused by germs, from typhoid to diarrhea, flu, cough. An average human being comes in contact with over 1 million germs daily when we use the toilet, from our door handles, from other surfaces. We transfer to others without realizing. That is why we recommend Dettol Antiseptic Liquid. Protect your family from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Be Dettol Sure.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Oh boy, climb this thing now. No be only to connect lights. Come do on yourself now. Now wow. Oh boy, calm down now. Oga Kasali electrician who will look for this. Oh, Oga Kasali, come help us fix this wire now.
Sorry, I no longer carry out illegal connection. It puts the lives of people at risk and can cause fire outbreak and disrupt power supply. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this any longer, because change begins with me.
Oh boy, wetin you talk make sense. Oh boy, we could carry this ladder from off.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Now you are still watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we are set for our second topic of the day, which is plastic pollution in Nigeria. Now, on that plastic pollution in Nigeria, we are taking off with this background report on the pollution put together by Victor Azu.
Global production and consumption of plastics continue to rise due to the versatile, lightweight, flexible, moisture-resistant, strong and relatively inexpensive nature of plastics. It is these attractive qualities that have continued to lead the world to such a voracious appetite and overconsumption of plastic goods. Discarding and littering of plastic waste and thus polluting has become a lethal combination, with the accumulation of plastic products in the environment adversely affecting wildlife, wild habitats and humans. In 2013 alone, an estimated 299 million tons of plastics were produced worldwide, representing a 4% increase over 2012 and confirming an upward trend over the past years. The result is that 13 million tons of plastics leak into the ocean, while about 80% of tap water is found to contain plastic particles. In fact, the world population is said to be living, working, and increasingly conglomerating along the coasts and standing on the front row of the greatest, most unprecedented plastic waste tide ever faced. This explains why some countries like Eritrea, Rwanda, Mauritania, Morocco and Kenya have outlawed the use of plastic bags. Others like South Africa, England, Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland and Zimbabwe have placed fee on its use. The pressure is also mounting on Nigeria to follow suit. But what exactly is the best way forward? Guests on Good Morning Nigeria will provide answers shortly.
All right, Victor Azo, thank you very much for that background report. Now we have two guests with us here in the Abuja studios to discuss this in greater detail. One of whom is, of course, is a familiar guest whenever we are taking on environmental and climate change issues. Dr. John Osonwa, lawyer, law teacher, environmentalist, and climate change expert. Welcome once again to Good Morning Nigeria.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, and then also here with us is Professor Umaru Semo, not Semovita, by the way. Professor Umaru Ishiaku is a polymer professor from Ahmadu Bello University at Zaria. Professor Ishiaku, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we're a polymer professor and a climate change expert and lawyer. Gentlemen, I mean, the view is that the world is drowning in plastic pollution. What is Nigeria's own position with regard to this? Are we safe or are we equally endangered?
Well, thank you for giving me opportunity to contribute to the ongoing discourse. Being a teacher, before I start, perhaps I want to educate us on what is plastics and, polymers. I will be very, very brief. Now, plastics are a derivative of the general term polymer, which comprise of big molecules. So if you say polyethylene, for example, it means it comprises of ethylene, small ethylene units joined together to make it. Now, man's evolution, has started from Stone Age, Iron Age, Industrial Age, and now we are in Information Age, but which is being driven by polymers. Now, if we talk polymer, that long molecule can be termed into, when it comes to application, into different categories, one of which is plastics. The other one is rubber. The other one is adhesives, paints, composite materials, foams that we use in the house, either for comfort or for rigid packaging. So briefly, this is what plastics is about. They are long molecules, and as we've seen in the program just now, they have now dominated our lives, because even the information age is being driven by computers. And each computer you see is 90% plastic. So because of this, we cannot do without plastics. But plastics come with their own side effects, because when you use it and you discard it, you can be sure for the next 100 years it is not even going to degrade. And because of that, they now form a continuous presence, which has made plastics to outshine perhaps their usefulness. So there is a public alarm about plastics. And that is because of our attitude generally, particularly in Nigeria. We don't have any legislation on the use of plastics. People also, our sanitation and attitudes, people use these plastics and throw them out of the car window, out of buses and so on. So we are at a big risk. Even though Nigeria is not isolated, we are part of the global community.
Now Prof, before you continue, since you began with definition.
Yes.
We'd like you to go the whole hog to let us know more about plastic. Now, polyethylene, which you mentioned earlier, happens to be about one of the commonest, plastic, and it's also used in making bottles, bags, and some other materials or products, from plastic. Now, is it toxic in nature? Because the non-biodegradable nature of polyethylene, is it toxic in nature?
Well, polyethylene by itself is not toxic, and that is why it's very popular for food contact and so on. But what happens is, by the time it has been used and thrown to the environment, it gets degraded by radiation from UV, and then it will now form into smaller particles, which, can be ingested by aquatic animals, and then go into the soil. And then even now, even in the developed country, there is concern that pure water, bottled water contain microplastics. So this is the concern now. It is when we discard them and they degrade, and then they become small bits, and these small bits cannot be digested by animals. That is where the danger comes.
All right, Professor Ishiaku, thank you very much. Of course, you are still here. Dr. John Osonwa, let's have your take on this. A question I asked earlier is Nigeria also drowning in plastic pollution?
Yes, we are. If you just look around you in Nigeria, we have adopted this wonderful love affair with plastic, even in Nigeria. I always cite the example. I remember when we were all growing up, if you bought some produce from the farm, things cooked, things sold on the side of the road, moi, akara, all this stuff, okpa, people will use natural leaves to wrap those things. And that was beautiful. It was beautiful for the environment. It was even wonderful for the food, because sometimes it will impart certain flavor and taste to the food, which was integral to that whole process. We have done away with that stuff. If you buy just 2 pieces of akara now, you get a plastic bag. If you buy every natural produce is being wrapped with plastic. You go into our supermarkets, they give you 3 sets of plastic. If you have toiletries, that's a separate bag. You have a tin of milk, that's a separate bag. You have other things, and then they put that in a bigger bag, which you will now carry. So we have this ubiquitous output of plastic, 5 trillion plastic bags being used every single year now, and it is harming us. It's a case where too much of a good thing has become bad. I'm not going to sit here and tell you plastic products are not beneficial to us. They are. Whether you're looking at the application in medicine, you're looking at application in the food industry, you're looking at household products, they have been good. But as we have seen historically, sometimes a new product comes on stream. Remember when zinc came, when we were little children, we migrated from thatched roofs to zinc. Everybody was excited. But after a few years, we began to notice that zinc was polluting the water that you're fetching. It was looking very unsightly. It was radiating heat to residents. Then we moved to long span.
Asbestos.
Asbestos, good. Yes. We moved to asbestos, and you've seen asbestos causes lung cancer. Asbestosis is a form of cancer now. We phased that out. Now we're migrating to different things. Same thing happened with our telephones. When we started with phones, we had these huge bread-like objects that weighed a ton, like a brick. And now we've discovered there was so much radiation coming from that stuff. Now it's becoming smaller, and we're getting wiser. So the point I'm making is, when we discover new products, there's always that initial excitement, initial migration to adopt it. But as we begin to have cognate experience dealing with that product, you discover that there are problems. And plastic right now is a problem, because the trend is up. In the last 10 years, we have produced more plastic than we did in the last 100 years. So that tells you that the trend is not abating. It is getting more worrisome.
Yeah, part of your analysis points to the fact that the usefulness of plastics cannot be overemphasized.
Yes.
So we have to learn to live with it.
It is.
Right. So are there many measures, that could be put in place, in fact, to see how that can be controlled, especially in the direct usage of bags and other materials?
Carry on. Thanks a lot. I'm just wondering, before we come to what alternative uses there might be. Perhaps maybe we'll also to learn from our guests. They have talked about the extent of plastics pollution in the country, but do we have that consciousness amongst us so that in proposing alternative uses or alternative responses to plastics pollution, then you might be able to carry the people along? From what we see around us, are people conscious that listen is not just harming the soil, it is harming our waters, harming our plants, and in the next couple of decades, it might even begin to kill us much more. Do we have that consciousness?
Well, from what I see, I can say no, because everybody thinks it is just harmless to get your plastics and use it and then dump it anywhere. So the education is not there to let us, the average educated person, now we are becoming aware of the implication of these plastics. But the people in the rural areas and at home, they don't seem to come into consciousness about this. So I think schemes have to come up to really train people and then educate them that, okay, these materials are useful, but then they have their own consequences if used and not used very well. In some other countries, you have waste bins, and then even the waste is separated into plastics, metal, organic. In Nigeria, we don't even have waste bins at all in most places. So the thing is, people just throw it anywhere.
Drink pure water and
drink pure water, just throw it, But some of us, because of our training from elsewhere, like if I have any plastic or anything in my car, I leave it in the car until I reach where I'm going. I dispose it properly. So until we start training ourselves that, look, this thing we are using, we derive so much benefit from it, but it is killing us. And then we have a bad attitude, and then the nonchalant attitude also of users is not helping matters. Even if government comes up with legislation, they may maybe see it as punitive measures. Government just has come again, So I believe that we need some education, public enlightenment, maybe perhaps backed up with legislation as it is happening in other places.
And you see, having the knowledge of the dangerous nature of plastic is one.
Yes.
And that also takes me back to the question I was about to ask with respect to what can really be done, not only to sensitize the people, but to provide a control measure to say, look, if you are using plastics, this is how it is disposed. Is there anything of that nature? Can it work?
Yes. I'm happy we're starting with the awareness issue, because that's always the epicenter of any attitudinal change in any area. People must be aware. There is no action without information. It's only when you have that information you begin to change your behavior. So I don't think we're doing enough. We have a multi-pronged approach. Let me just quickly run them, then we'll go into detail. First one is awareness. The second one is government action. First action, of course, is legislation and giving some kind of directive as to what you should do. The next one is incentives. We should always use this carrot and stick approach. If you want to really impact environmental behavior, you need to have a carrot and stick approach. You make the legislation which says, thou shalt not do this, but you also give incentives to create alternatives and to encourage good behavior. And then you need enforcement, sanctions, enforcement, vigilance. So you must have a confluence of these factors in order to effect change. If you look at the issue of awareness, as we're saying, many people are not aware. Whatever you buy in plastic is heated in plastic. That is very dangerous because you're now getting back to that radiation that Prof talked about. You're now creating your own artificial radiation, which will break down the component parts and actually get into your food. Sometimes you taste water that has been sitting in the sun for weeks or months, and it tastes different. That is because the plastic has interacted with the water, and is no longer the same highly pure in the sense of pure, not the one we call
not poor, not poor.
No longer the same purified water that you thought you had. So those things are behavioral issues that we must x-ray, which leads me to x-ray too. Those are issues that we must x-ray, and people will become aware. So if you want to impact behavior, you need a multi-pronged approach.
Well, gentlemen, still with what Kieran was pursuing, when you take a look at our environment, I mean, you take a look first, for instance, at our drains, whether in upscale neighborhoods or in fairly, financially challenged neighborhoods, you find the same menace of plastics all over the place. People just tossing their plastics, garbage, into the open drains or clogged drains, and so on and so forth. Are we up against, a mighty challenge that would take a while for us to break down and then get people to recognize that indeed, this is a death sentence that is waiting to be executed upon livelihoods in the environment?
What you have just highlighted now leads to two very serious problems in Nigeria now. The first one is the issue of clogging of our drainage systems. We have had recurrent floods in Nigeria now. Beginning in 2012, we have seen where flooding comes in and sweeps away communities, neighborhoods. So it's becoming a recurrent phenomenon. And when you trace the root cause of this new scourge that we're experiencing, you will find that clogging of waterways, drainage ways, gutters is highly responsible in most cases. So when you throw away the plastic, even if you throw it away on higher ground, much of the plastic bags we use, sachet, they are airborne if there's a wind or rain is about to come. And the natural tendency is for those things to go to lower ground. Lower ground in most cases tends to be the gutters and the drainage. So they all accumulate there. We don't clean them. Even when we do, we just pile it next to the gutter and then it goes back in. So that clogs the system. But it also leads to another environmental problem, and that is the breathing of mosquitoes, because those small plastics collect stagnant water and sit there for weeks. And mosquitoes love that kind of environment. So we're just killing ourselves.
All right. See, the Prof has been coming from the academic angle, as far as this conversation is concerned. And I'd like to take you a little bit back, because I have listened to you. It means that plastics are actually made from petroleum. Yes. And therefore, it is not found in nature at all. Now, one may ask, if there are no organisms that could, decompose some level of plastics, because some are thick, some are thin, and all that. Is there a possibility?
When we talk of plastics, as I said, plastics are a subclass of polymer. And there are polymers that exist in nature. For example, all the wood material we use, cotton, they are cellulosic materials. Those are natural polymers. And those ones degrade after life and you throw them away. Now, one of the solutions that is being looked at as an alternative to these non-degradable plastics is the use of biodegradable plastics. These are plastics that can mimic the natural polymers. And then these plastics, when you use them and you throw them away, they will become decomposed. I mean, just like when you throw a piece of wood in the environment, you come 3 months' time, it's gone. So there are plastics being developed now that, will, mimic nature. So these plastics are now gaining ground. You have plastics made from starch. And then, for example, the Sydney Olympics, they use starch cups and bottles, you know, for drinks. So this starch, being a natural polymer, after you use it, you throw it away, it will degrade. There are also some other materials, such as polylactic acid, which is very, very popular. So when cassava, for example, is bought from Nigeria and taken to Thailand, they are using it to make natural polymers, polylactic acid. So that one too, when you throw it away, it will decompose. So gradually, these materials are coming into mainstream in packaging. But of course, degradable plastics have always been with us. For example, when during surgery, when they have to stitch inside, those are degradable plastics that they use, so that you don't have to be opened again to remove the sutures. So a big direction forward now is degradable plastics and also composites, because if you now take, say, biomaterials like our agricultural wastes, and then you incorporate it into plastics, by the time you reach a certain composition, even the plastic themselves become biodegradable. So the way forward is in terms of, from the academic point of view and researches that are going on, is we've developed biodegradable polymers and then biodegradable composites. And a lot of efforts is going on in this area. I know we have a project that is going on in our department, which we use pure water bags to make waxes that can be used for shoe polish, and also to make composites using agricultural waste. So we are turning waste to wealth, both agricultural waste that we burn and also the plastic wastes.
All right, Professor Ishaku, thank you very much. My colleague Kirian was asking about whether there are no enzymes. There's a recent research report from somewhere in Australia that some enzymes have now been discovered that can degrade the plastics as we know. That's the plastics pollution, particularly those in the ocean, not the biodegradable one normally. Yes. That there are some enzymes that can be put out there. But of course, but before the world gets to using biodegradable plastics, we already have a menace of the more popular plastics, which we understand will take decades, if not hundreds of years, and therefore the dangers continue to remain. What can be done with regard to efficient recycling in an environment such as ours? What steps can be taken almost immediately, to go step by step, to go gradually towards reclaiming the menace that we already have with regular plastics before the biodegradable variety will come in? Dr. Sonwa.
What I think we need to have a national, even a global reawakening in terms of our relationship with plastic. What I tell people, I say, as a consumer, and keep in mind, individual consumers have the greatest power in this area, and this is what I mean. If you look at the statistics in terms of plastic usage, what you will find is that household usage, household goods, and packaging, things we buy, the hospitality industry, the food and beverage, those two sectors account for about 65% of what is happening in terms of plastic usage. And if you look at those areas, you see that we as individuals have tremendous power to affect what happens. So if we have that power, it also means that we can exercise that power to make changes. And how do we make changes? I always say, think of 4 things. First one should be refuse plastic. How do you refuse plastic? Let's say you're at a restaurant and they're offering you a drink. They have glass cups. Some people will still request a straw. You don't need the straw to drink from a glass cup. Let's say you've gone to buy your takeaway food. They've packaged it and they're now giving you sets of cutlery. Maybe you bought for 4 people. They're giving you for 4. But you're taking it home to your family You have silverware at home. You don't need to collect all that plastic. So, and then you, as I mentioned before, you go to a supermarket, they want to give you 4 bags to still put in 1 bag. You can refuse some of those bags. So we begin to refuse. If you cannot refuse outright, how do you reduce your usage of plastic within your home, within your environment, and how you interact? Reduction. Office, NTA, instead of people giving you plastic bottles, perhaps we'll have 1 big container where you go and you drink, and everybody drinks from that. That's reduction. Then the next one is, how do you reuse what you already have? When we have an example of rudimentary recycling, when people, you buy, starts out as spring water, then it becomes then it becomes palm wine or something else. So that's a rudimentary aspect of recycling and reusing of plastic. Then, of course, the final phase is, how do you recycle? As Professor was saying, if you can segregate what is coming out of your house, and you have a mechanism, and that's where I think we have a deficiency in Nigeria. We don't have the mechanism. Even when you sort religiously within your household, as I do, if it gets out of your household, many times it gets all commingled again. So that effort is wasted. So you need that follow-up step. But if we can do that, refuse, reduce, reuse, recycle, you will see a tremendous reduction.
Why do we have, gentlemen, when you look at our urban centers, there is a blight of poor solid waste management. Minus plastics now, I mean, plastics of course will contribute to it, but if we have a challenge of managing solid waste in our urban centers, how can we get on the train of managing more effectively plastics pollution? What is the big deal with recycling plastics, or even recycling solid waste?
Well, I think we are taking some steps, although there may be some baby steps so far, because the Vice President in his broadcast mentioned efforts that both federal government and state governments are doing. And he mentioned that so far they have established recycling plants in Kwara, that is in Ilorin, in Lokoja, and then one is happening in Karu, is ongoing. There are also other private sector initiatives that are being supported by government. You have Bola Jari in Gombe State. Bola Jari in Hausa means waste to wealth. And then in Kano you have Leather Jari, which is this plastic leather also to wealth. And there are other initiatives. Like me, I'm privately involved in recycling. We have a company that we formed right from before I came back to the country. The name is Posiag. And we are into truck tire retreading. And you know, when you, instead of a truck tire that has expired, being thrown into the environment, you bring it back, we retread it, and then it will serve another life cycle. So those are some of the efforts that are going on. But what we need is mass education. We need, for example, if you check before now in Nigeria, we don't have any training in plastics and rubber technology, but it is just starting. University like Futo, they have started. Oka, they have started. You also have some training going on in Yaba College of Tech. In ABU, we have just started, you know, our polymer and technology this year. What happened is that by the time you train people, and then you have intellectuals who are engineers, you have polymer scientists, polymer technicians, then they will be able to impact on the general public by and large. But if you don't have people who are very highly knowledgeable in this area, they will not be able to educate the public. Or if they become entrepreneurs and they go in to all these businesses, they will know the implications of their actions.
Now, sorry, Prof, we've gotten this analysis, you know, so interesting too. The recycling plastic into another form of plastic.
Yes.
One wonders whether it makes any difference, right? But again, from your initial disposition, it does seem that technology has a great role to play in all of this, especially with respect to the issue of bringing in biodegradable plastic, which of course you said has started elsewhere, across the globe. Now, Nigerians are beginning to react to our conversation, given in mind the fact that every home in this country, every home has one plastic product or the other. In fact, some people go as far as microwaving their food using plastic plates, which of course, from what the Dr. Sonwa explained, is very, very dangerous. Now, let's see what Nigerians are saying.
Well, I mean, our guest will speak to this. The cars we are driving today are full of plastics.
Yes.
And polymer products.
Everything.
If you recall, I mean, up to about 3 decades or so ago, but you still had, when you had chrome bumpers, these days you don't have chrome bumpers.
They
They are all plastic bumpers. I mean, you go inside the car, everything is virtually plastic, or polymer.
Yes.
So are we going to discard the millions of vehicles that we have in Nigeria? All right, Kirian, you said we have tweets. Mike Ayanko has... this first week that we're taking on this discussion. The challenge we are having in this country is that extant laws of the land are flagrantly disobeyed without any reprimand on offenders. There is a law against pollution, and relevant enforcement agencies are very docile. Plastic pollution is dangerous to the health of the people.
Now, Professor Nasiru M. Idris says, easier said than done. The first thing government should do is the establishment of a recycling plant. Otherwise, creation of blue bins or so is just waste of time, as Nigeria doesn't have standard sanitary landfill. Now, he continues. Yes. How to beat plastic pollution? Use of woven bags. Manufacturers to pay tax. Less use of plastic materials. Because of plastic materials, 1 day off in shopping malls for plastic bags, extra charges on plastic bags, enlightenment and education on the effect of plastics, use of glass bottles.
Festus Akimboye, government and civil society organizations should put pressure on companies, especially big supermarkets and food and beverage companies, through legislation and taxes to tackle plastic pollution by cutting plastic use across Nigeria. The federal government should work with the state, civil society, and the private sector to come up with a national action plan that will focus on eradicating avoidable plastic waste and change consumer behavior across the country.
From Pastor Arise Nigeria, in respect of plastic pollution, federal government should, as a matter of urgency, establish recycling industry or factory in all the 6 geopolitical zones in order to avert the danger thereof.
Habila Kwara Zakshi tweets that the rate of plastic pollution in Nigeria is very alarming, such that if urgent action is not taken, we'll be in for serious environmental hazards. Almost everything is packaged with plastic, and it is hard to dispose of it appropriately. It's high time the authorities acted.
Sakiru, before now, federal government condemned glass containers and ordered bottling companies to resort to plastics as the alternative. What next now to replace plastics?
Ostino, that's the handle of this next contributor. There should be a ban on the use of single plastics. Alternatively, a fee for use should be imposed, just as you have it in the UK. The protection of the environment is vital.
Now, Olokere Olajide says the government should direct NOA to educate our people, most especially in primary and secondary schools, where the preventive culture could be effectively imparted. Now, going forward, Kinsley, I think we should be able to now begin to look for solutions, what could be done. Prof started it a short while ago, but I'd like Dr. Sonwa to come in here too. The solutions, seem to be very important at this point in time, because plastic is everywhere, just everywhere. Look around you in the environment, anywhere else across this country, there are plastics all over the place. So now the dangers inherent in all this, littering of plastics everywhere, have been highlighted in this conversation. What next?
Well, we've highlighted some of the dangers, but I think I need to point out 2 more. First one is the consumption or the ingestion of plastic particles, and I'm talking about microparticles. They are so tiny you can't see them. And much of the pollution we talk about is in the micro category. So the ingestion, we have research from the US, 94% of any given population has been exposed to plastic particles. And in large numbers, the average person ingests about 3,000 particles per year. And that thing is harmful. It disrupts the body's normal functioning. It can lead to cancer because it warps the cellular function of the body that can eventually lead to cancer. It has been linked to infertility in some cases, immune disorders. So it is a very serious problem to humans. Then you also look at our ecosystem, the marine life. 1 million seabirds are dying every year because of plastic ingestion. If you take the average seabird, about at least 30 plastic particles in its stomach, and they die. Our fish, our marine resources are being depleted. So it's a very serious problem. What do we do to minimize? Because as you said, we cannot completely eradicate plastic. It's a part of our lives now. What do we do to minimize? First one is we are looking for alternatives, as Prof pointed out. In some areas, people are using jute bags. People are using other kinds of bags that degrade, and they are making those bags from materials that are renewable. Used to be we would just use wood to make paper. Now we're using bamboo. Bamboo is a renewable resource. Only takes 2 years to grow. Wood takes 30 years. So people are migrating, and wood and bamboo is beautiful for bags. People are also looking at the issue of how do you even avoid using plastics in your shopping. We have shops in the US that pioneered the concept. BJ's Wholesale, Costco. You come in, you buy everything, put it in your cart, put it in your car and go home. Nothing that has to do with bagging. And people are loving it because it's reducing the burden. Coming to Nigeria here, what do? We need to, first of all, create the awareness that it is dangerous, that we can reduce our usage, and we need to also invite people through incentives, government programs, to get into recycling, to get into awareness creation in the rural areas. There's a huge business opportunity in plastics, not just in recycling it. It can even be turned to energy. Depending on how you incinerate it, you can use that to create energy. So there are options there, but we need to be aware, government needs to be involved, and we need to have clear guidelines of what you can do and what you cannot do.
All right, thank you very much. Professor Ishaku, tell us something more about the recycling that we can embark upon, as well as other alternative uses, first of all, to clean up the environment and be sure that the level of pollution that we have seen or we are seeing in the country is reduced drastically. You ticked off some areas where you're having recycling plants, either as an initiative or otherwise. But considering the size of the country and the population, we're told that we are around 98 million. Yes. We need far more than that. Why has it been a slow growth with regard to recycling plastics?
Well, I think we are really making some progress in recycling, because in 2009, we were sponsored by a German company that wanted to come and establish a recycling plant in Nigeria. And then we did plastics recycling, auditing, and for the whole of North Central Senate, what do you call it, geopolitical zone. And I was in charge. I took charge of the dump site for FCT. It is somewhere when you are going to towards airport, you turn in on the right. And when I went there, I was surprised that, you have more than 400 people living at the dump site. And then they were collecting, and then they even distribute them. They have a union. Somebody cannot just come there and collect garbage anyhow. And those that collect plastic bottles are different. Those that collect PVC pipes are different. And I was surprised because we were there for almost 2 weeks. You have trailers loading every day. I even have some of the photographs in my listing. And then they are loading to Kano, to recycling plants, and then to Lagos, to recycling plants. So recycling is gradually coming onto the stream. Now, when we talk of plastics recycling, there is always a problem because not all the plastic bags you see, for example, are the same. Okay. You know, we have those which are like polyethylene, and then we have those like PVC and other materials. These two are not mixable. Okay. So if you just collect them anyhow, and then you try to recycle, whatever you make will not work.
Okay, Prof. We have to stop it there. You know, one of my questions, was what are you recycling into? Is it plastic or something? But all the same, there's no time for us to go into further details on this conversation. But I would like to thank you immensely for your insight into this conversation from professional point of view as an academic. We've been talking to Professor Ishaq Usemo Omaru, a polymer professor, ABU Zaria. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
And of course, a regular guest here when the issue of environment is brought to bear, and that's Dr. John Osongwa, environmentalist, and of course, a climate change expert. Thank you for your time and your contributions.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
All right, next on Good Morning Nigeria is sports. And of course, Eagles lose to Czech Republic in their final pre-World Cup friendly. And in tennis, Simona Halep wins Angelique Kerber to reach the French Open semi-final. Now let's join our sports desk for more details.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria on Wednesday lost their last round of pre-World Cup friendlies against Czech Republic, 1-0 in Austria. The Eagles, who dominated possession for most of the game, fell behind after a rebound strike from Thomas Callas gave the Czech side the lead. Meanwhile, midfielder Wilfred Ndidi, who had been down with injury worries, started for the Eagles and played the full duration of the game. In their 5 friendly games going into the World Cup, the Super Eagles lost 3,